Hey everyone, Jay here. Thanks for tuning in. What you might not know about me if you only know me through YouTube is that I actually spend some of my time during the year as a rep for World Coffee events. What that means is that I go to different countries working with their national organizations to help them put on different types of coffee championships. From there, their national champion will then go to the World Championships where they'll compete against other countries and eventually name a winner. So recently I championed the United Kingdom, a guy named Josh Tarlo, who evidently won the 2018 United Kingdom Barista Championships and placed third in the World Brewers Cup, made a post on social media that said, "Your coffee needs to stand out. Judges have fatigued palates after tasting all day. Your coffee will need to be so intense, it's unforgettable. Pro tip, use only naturals, dark honeys, or exotic processed coffees." Josh also then goes on to support his comments with a blog post on joshtarlo.com titled Barista Competition Guide Part 1, How to Pick a Competition Coffee. So here in this article he talks about being part of barista competitions has been transformative for me. So in the article he says that he's been lucky enough to win the UK Barista Championship in 2018 and that he's roasted 9 of the last 15 coffees that people use to get on the podium. But he goes on to say, the most important part is that he goes on to talk about how to pick a competition coffee. So let's go through what he talks about and see what it's all about. So with closing the chapter on my competing time, I want past the knowledge learned on to people getting started. The first lesson is to always know the rules. So many people have gotten disqualified for something silly. Number one, this is completely true. The rules of the game tell you how to play it. If you don't really understand it and you don't understand the score sheet, you've got a lot of problems happening. The second lesson is almost all the points you can get come from the coffee. So the one you pick can decide how well you do. Yes, that's very true. Most of your points will come from the coffee experience that you are sharing with the judges. So now he's going to share with us some pointers on how you can do this. Choosing and processing. Judges have been tasting coffee all day, so their palates are fatigued, which means big, bold coffees do well. They reward coffee with intense fruit or floral notes. This means you want naturals, carbonics, anaerobics, or dark honeys. Washed coffees, pulp naturals, and light honeys tend not to stand up as well and present too high of an acidity which distracts from the sweetness. There's something that's interesting to realize in coffee competitions, and that is trendiness, right? A lot of things become trendy. Like, for example, he mentions in the article anaerobics, carbonics, meaning the carbonic maceration, champagne type of fermentations. There's a whole new slew of coffee processings that have come out since about 2015, and it's just the latest rate. As a coffee buyer, I've been working with anaerobic coffees since about 2014, 2015. But they didn't really start to hit heavily on the competition scene until maybe 2019, really. Like the last year that we were doing active competitions in 2019, that's when I really started to see a lot of talk about anaerobics and a lot of excitement about carbonics and things like that from the barista competitor. Now he talks here, washed coffees, pulp naturals, and light honeys tend not to stand up as well. I disagree. It all depends on how well that coffee is made and how well you prepare that coffee, as well as how well you present that coffee. That's really it. The Barista Championship in particular is all about coffee preparation and coffee presentation, which includes being able to communicate to the judges the experience they're going to have. Let's move this over here. So choosing an origin. The primary importance in choosing an origin is freshness. Most coffees need to be within 9 months of harvesting when you roast it for comp to be at its peak. Yes, that's a good rule of thumb. Ideally, you want to be using fresh coffee. However, more importantly, you want to be delivering coffee that you can give an accurate accounting of what the judges will be experiencing. That's really the whole game there. All right, so next up he says, choosing varietal cultivar. Much has been said about everyone who wins comps using a geisha. Honestly, the cultivar doesn't matter. Very true. Geisha just tends to have what scores well because at its best, it's high in flavor, clarity, and intensity. Don't make a statement with your cultivar choice. Pick one. Well, so many people like to make that kind of statement. That is a good point. Geisha's not that big of a deal. Yes, for a long time it's been a big deal. It gets a lot of high points. It gets a lot of high scores as far as like cupping competitions, and it gets high dollar prices on the green market. So the next thing it talks about is flavor notes. Once you have your coffee, you'll need flavor notes. Take inspiration from Paul Ross's 2019 camp and crowdsource your notes. Get them of 4 experienced coffee people, give them the coffee, and without talking to them, get them to write the 5 flavor notes they can taste by intensity. Use the top answers as your baseline on the day. You can go to other people whose palates you trust, ask them to taste the coffee that you're going to be using, have them give you their flavor notes. And that is an effective method to understand your coffee more. However, during your actual performance, you have to be able to tell us, the judges, exactly what we're going to taste, exactly what we're going to experience. If you can accurately do that, then you get higher points. That's really the whole game. So you can rely upon all these other people to tell you what they think that coffee tasted like on whatever day they may have tasted it. What only matters is what we taste at the moment that you serve it and whether you've told us accurately enough what to expect. So the next thing he talks about is cost. If you're really aiming for the top, expect to pay around 60 pounds per kilogram minimum for the coffee. What? It can be an expensive investment, but winning is one of the best ways to make a mark in the industry and build your coffee career. I think a lot of people get really wrapped up in this whole idea that they must pay lots and lots and lots of money for great coffee. I disagree with that. What you need to do as a competitor, as a barista, as anyone in the industry, you need to find coffees that you feel excited about, coffees that you feel are expressive, that express what you want. And those coffees are available for different price ranges. But don't feel compelled that you must buy expensive coffee just because it's going to deliver you more. It may not. A lot of it has to do with the way you source the coffee, the way that it's processed, the way that you roast it, and most importantly, the way that you prepare it at the time. You could take a 60-pound coffee and you bungle that in the competition, you're done. Doesn't matter how much you spent. Or you could maybe take that $3 coffee, deliver it beautifully, express it completely, tell us exactly what we're going to taste and deliver on that, and you might be able to win. But don't get too locked up on price. Look for the flavor experience and also figure out how to deliver on that. All right, next thing he wants to talk about is finding a farm. If someone has used a coffee from a farm to win a comp, chances are it will be hard for someone starting out to get the best coffee from that farm. You're better off looking for up-and-coming farms and developing a relationship. Yeah, if you're a new barista and you're trying to get into the competition world and you've heard that Geisha's the great coffee to be using and you'll win and have fantastic riches and glory, and you travel to Panama and you go to Price Peterson, who owns Hacienda Esmeralda, and you say to him, "Hey, Price, I'm looking for a coffee. I need to buy 5 pounds of it." That guy's going to look at you like you're nuts. So he says the best way to do this is to look at the Cup of Excellence website, check out the past winners, and look for farms at the low end of the top 15. Try and find a farm that has ranked a few times over the years but hasn't managed to take the top spots. These are ambitious people who want to succeed, but like you are learning how, if you invest them in collaboration. So here's something for you to think about. Well, so typically the Cup of Excellence in any one country, has a call for submissions. So farmers from all over the country will send samples of their coffee to the organization that's running the country competition. And they'll have a national cupping, so they get national internal judges to go through the samples. So let's say one particular, they have 300 samples. These guys will go through cupping and determine a ranking for those 300, of which the top 25 will go to the Cup of Excellence. I would not also just be looking at the top 15 that Josh is mentioning, but also see if you can look at the upper echelon of those 300. Maybe somewhere in there lies some beauty. All right, and so that's pretty much everything that he talks about on finding coffee for the competition. And this thing got to our attention because he talked about judges' fatigue. And that's something I wanted to address as well, because there's two levels really to consider with coffee championships within World Coffee events. And that is the national level competitions and then the world championships, right? So at the world levels, we're using judges from around the world, judges that have been selected and trained, as well as judges that have extensive experience. We're talking, for you to become a WBC sensory certified judge, you have had to work as a judge for years before you can even apply to become certified to do judging at the world level. So the judges that get to the world level, they have experience. They've been doing this for a long time. They understand tasting. They understand the thought of palate fatigue. A lot of them do a lot of cuppings on their own, so they're very well adapted to understanding coffee under pressure, under long days, long hours. So the idea of fatigue, I don't really get too worried about, especially since at the world levels, we are rotating judges throughout the day. So we don't normally allow them to work that much. So one judge may do, like, let's say 4 successive competitors, which means that they'll do one and they'll have half hour between the next 2, then to do another. So the judges have enough time between performances to clear their palates, to rest their palates, to be fresh again. So the idea that palate fatigue with judges is very unlikely. Even at the national competitions, like, not all national competitions are equal. Like the United Kingdom, like the United States, they are very well run, very large, very massive undertakings. South Korea, Japan is like that as well. I mean, we're talking like full level, as though you were at the Worlds almost. That's the kind of quality and size that they're able to execute, mainly because they've got a lot of money. Other countries that may not have as much development and resources, it's going to be a little bit tighter. You may have a lower number of judges to work with. And so as I'm in other countries where the resources aren't as great, we're still able to spread out the judges enough so that they don't have palate fatigue. So that's what Josh had to say. Now you've heard my perspective as a World Championship judge on, if you're a barista looking to compete in the World Coffee Events Championships, give it a try. I think it's a great time. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. I think I'm also going to follow up with a video about how to really understand what Josh is talking about on the score sheet so that you can help understand them better and maybe even maximize your scores. If you'd like to see more of that, let me know about that down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe. I really enjoy having you all and answering your questions and doing what I can. And if we can possibly do it, I'd love to have 1,000 subscribers before the end of 2021. Otherwise, if you enjoyed it, like the video and all that kind of stuff. What else is happening in there? That's about it. Thank you very much. See you next time.